2026 upcoming academic calendar school year here at Kaiser University. I just want to start off by saying that the last 10 months working with Sodexo as an RA over the summer months, this past summer, and this fall and spring semesters has been an absolute true joy for me. This is truly more than a job for me. I see this as helping the community here on campus that I am so passionate about, being a student athlete and working here. Truly passionate about Kaiser and the place that this is, and continue to build it to be one of the greatest institutions here in the state and ultimately in the country. So without further ado, let's jump into the first slide here. So, question one looks at describing a time when you identify a resident in distress. Well, there's been a few cases of this here for me that I've dealt with in the past 10 months, and there's one for sure that comes to mind, and it was a resident, not a personal resident of mine in my block of rooms, but it was a resident that I actually had more of a relationship with, in the sense of they were on the track team. We were good friends. I knew about them more on a personal level, and they were dealing with some anxiety issues and some issues back home with family. Being international as a freshman, they were struggling through a lot of new and unfamiliarity, and so I was able to have great deals of conversations with them and try to comfort them and provide them resources. And I actually was able to appoint them to our counseling here on campus at the wellness center, and that was able to really they took some sessions with their wonderful therapist here, and they were able to get the help they needed, and they started feeling a lot better, a lot more happy and comfortable about their surroundings and the life that they were living. And I continue to have a good relationship with that person and continue to have good conversations with them and try to help them. And while through doing that, they've helped me a ton, because even though my situation may look a lot different, there's some similarities, and that has helped me a ton. So, that's number one. And I've dealt with a lot of more smaller incidences of just building good relationships with the resident members and talking to them on a daily basis, so that when they tell me, hey, when I just simply ask them the question of, hey, how are you doing? What's up? And I sit with them at the CAF, or I see them in the courtyard in Stauffer. I have I try to build not just small talk conversations, but when I can, and the time permits, have a real good hearty conversation. And I find a lot of those, there's generally something that the resident is telling me that they are struggling with, or not something so deep sometimes, but it's just I have a good conversation with them and I try to help them. And sometimes it's something with their roommates. There was one incident where I had a roommate that was keeping them up at night and they weren't getting enough sleep, so then everything else that sleep that you need sleep for was hurting, and I was able to appoint them to their RA, their specific RA, and then it escalated from there to managers, Pedro and Ricky and stuff. So that was another incident where that happened, and I was able to help a resident who ultimately needed some help, and they were able to figure out the situation, sort it out, and all the roommates were able to come to an agreement, which was awesome. So moving on to the next slide, looking at question 2 here. Have you developed a community for residents based on their interests or needs? How have you created an environment that demonstrated respect and appreciation for diversity? So for me, this is a huge one. I think the reason why I enjoy this job truly, actually a lot, is those relationships I get to make and connect and have with my fellow classmates, teammates, and colleagues at work, and the people I live with and work for, other students here on campus. And for me, it's developing a community of care, trust, resilience, respect, and fostering that. And I like to really make sure that when I see my residents, my specific residents, that I take the time to start a conversation with them. I generally like to ask them, hey, has everything in the room been good? Is there any work orders? Is there any issues that have been causing? How does the room look? They'll tell me. And I like to go from there. And a lot of the times I find they actually have something that generally it's a work order, right? And they're like, oh, thank you so much for asking. I get the work order, I go into the office, or I send it in the group chat, and it gets put in, right? But that shows them that I am there for them, that I care, that we care as housing, and we are looking out for them and providing them a service that they are essentially paying for at the end of the day, that we are to provide them. And another one of this is our built-in programming that we have with our 5 events we have to hold per semester. For me, it's those. I remember when I was just a student here, student athlete, and not working for Sodexo, that some of those events I attended were some of the highlights of my weeks, highlights of my months, and memories that I'll have for forever. Some of them, they were just so much fun. And I've been trying to foster that as much as I can with my events. Now, I think truthfully, while reflecting after this year, that I would like to improve for next year, is I would like to be able to be a little bit more diverse in my program that I offer in those 5 events per semester. I think a lot of them were athletic based and hosting sport events, which I think all is great, but I would like to get a little bit more diversity in there with that, so I keep attracting the same residents to those events and offering a greater variety to cater to everyone. I think for me, a big part is we are super diverse. There's so much diversity here on campus, and that is in residents here and commuters, that I just love the aspect of being able to be in one of my residents' rooms, doing a room check per se, and being in there with 6 different people from 6 different countries. How cool is that? From all different parts of the world. You don't get that a lot, and for me, it's connecting them through showing interest in their culture, showing interest in them and their lifestyle, and sharing that and being open to it, and ultimately the connection of a fist pump or a handshake or a dab up or anything like that, that really makes them feel that connection. It makes me feel that connection. To me, that's very important, and I think I've built a good relationship with that with the residents here on campus, and I feel like us as a team with my fellow RAs this year, we've done a good job of doing so. I constantly see fellow RAs having connections with other residents as we walk to point A to point B during the day, during the week, during the weekend, right? So I think that's huge, because at the end of the day, we're all here for different reasons, but ultimately, the end is the same reason, right? We all come here with different backgrounds, so it's like, hey, how can we enjoy our time here as much as possible, help each other out, and build each other up? So moving on to the next slide. So yeah, a huge part of the job is we are dealing with college students who are away from home for the first time, have more freedom than they've ever had. So with this comes is typically some behavioral issues and actions that need to be addressed, and that is a big part of what we're here to do these checkups, to be in ear, to constantly be on the lookout for issues in circumstances. So a behavioral concern that I dealt with much earlier on last semester was we had an issue between roommates who were in disagreement with, basically just for their own reasons, had no desire for each other, were arguing, fighting, not being courteous to each other. And they were roommates on the same side, and how I dealt with the situation was first off, I try to hear. I gathered information from both sides. I wanted to hear both sides because each side's going to have their own stance on things. And then I went to my head my pro staff. We I caught him up with the issue. We sat down in this very room actually, and we discussed how we wanted to go about this next. We called individual meetings with the two residents, and then we brought them in together. And from there, we described how we've perceived the situation, and then we provided what we can do going forward and the solutions there is and what we can do. And ultimately, those residents were able to sort things out, come to an agreement, and see eye to eye. And we were able to provide the constructive conversation that they needed to have, and we put boundaries in place with them to ensure that things progress from there positively and in the correct manner. And I think we did a good job with that. I think looking back on that situation, what I would have done different from the beginning is I would have wrote better notes while getting that information. I thought I could keep it all in my head and remember all the facts that they were telling me. And we talked about it in training, take notes when these situations occurred. And I ultimately really didn't that night. And I thought, well, reflecting back on that, if I took notes, it could have been more effective. It would have been more professional. And when I went to my pro staff, I would have been able to give hard notes, not just here's what they've told me. When you put it on paper, it has more meaning and it's more professional, and it's how we should attack things in the future. So moving on to the next slide. The question is basically, how do you manage the GARA position expectations and uphold the student code of conduct of the university? So I think there's a lot of expectations on me, and I embrace that. I think it's made me a better person, and has continued to put me in the path I want to go in life, and truly be happy with where I am at. And those expectations comes to everything, right? There's kind of, you could say, two parts to our job, right? There's more of the office and there's more of the duty, where you need to, where you're on duty, and the duty of just being there for the residents. Whether you're walking to your own class or to practice and they have a question, trying to help them out, point them in the right direction, or assist in any way I can. But those expectations in the office are, right, it's being on time, being professional, that's wearing a uniform, right, that's wearing a collar shirt. Now that we got the name tags, right, shoes, and ultimately being groomed and professional, being where your feet are. And I take pride in being present. I think I can do so much better with it, but I feel like when I'm at work, I'm not in a million different places. I'm dealing with a lot of different things, and sometimes I am doing other things when I can, when the time allots for it. But I feel like when a resident comes in with a question or assistance, I'm able to listen to them, understand them. I also manage it by having a schedule and a routine. I really pride myself on having a really good daily routine, where that keeps me really on track. It starts my day off right. It gets me to meet all the expectations and the things I have to do on time and properly. And there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of expectations between everything that I do, that's necessary for me to be kind of dialed in all the time. And that doesn't mean not taking a break, right? But it's like always that just level of care, professionalism, and being goal-oriented in all the aspects of my life. And I think that's how I ultimately make sure that I'm reaching all the expectations that this job holds, and making sure that I do it at a high level. And I look to continue to do that going forward here, and continue to build on that even at a higher level. And how I plan on doing that is, I think by trying to go a little, not above and beyond, quote unquote, but doing the extra stuff, doing, making my programs just that much better, making my communication with residents that much better, and whether that's via email and whatnot, to make it at a more professional level. So moving on to the next slide, we're looking at how are you a team player? Well, for me, being a part of a team is honestly just about everything. Because for you to be successful in life, and whatever you deem what that successful means, is you need the people around you, and you need to build a good circle. And because you yourself can only accomplish so much, but with a great team, the limits are endless. And for me, I've been lucky to be truly a part of a team since I was a really young kid, through sports, whether that's unorganized and organized sports. And I feel like I've been able to develop a lot of good team skills, where I feel like it's one of the best attributes that I hold. I'm a people person. That doesn't mean that I don't need my own time, but I get fuel and energy by the people I'm around. I truly value that, and I value the relationships that I have, and I've been able to build on those relationships and strengthen them through this job with residents and staff members here on this campus, because ultimately those are the people I'm seeing the most on a weekly basis. I think an example where I've shown this ultimately too is with the flexibility with my colleagues when they need help to switch something, or need help. If I can, I'm doing it. If I can do it with my schedule, I am doing it. And to me, it helps everyone. What you give is what you get. And I feel like I've been able to give a good amount to my fellow employees, that I've got a lot when I needed the help. I know a lot of different things within my my major, and trying to build my life, and within lacrosse, and all the sectors of my life, that I needed some help from my fellow staff members, that they've given me then, because when I could, I gave it to them. And I feel like that is huge. I feel like when I'm in the office with my fellow colleagues, I like to try to build like a conversation, be on the same page, have some constructive fun, and also being serious at the same time, and building a team. I also always address the group by team, because we are a team, and I thoroughly think that when you address it like that, it's building that reminder that, hey, we are a team, and a strong team here in Kaiser City Exo Housing. So yeah, is the RA position a priority to you? And if so, how have you exhibited this during the past academic year? So this role, this job, for me is a huge priority. First off, on a logistics part, for me, it provides the income I need to be able to attend here. It provides me the skills that I need to continue to build to better myself, to get to where I need to go next. It provides me a lot. So with that, it becomes a priority for me. It is a priority for me. It really, really matters, and I think the quality of a job that we do really reflects on the happiness and the retention rate of the residents that are here on campus. I think while reflecting that even though it is a huge priority, this job for me, I think at times when my life is super busy between being in season, academics, and trying to do everything in my major and building up my resume there, that it may come across as, is it truly the priority for me? And I understand that and I get that, but it really is, and I feel like I've done a good job. I continue to strive to get better at that, to make it one of the priorities all the time. And I feel like even though while juggling so many different things, I was able to continue to make it a priority. Maybe not at the ultimate highest level where I always want to be, but at a level that's acceptable enough. So that's something I strive and I look at in the future to continue to build and do at a high level. Move on to the last slide here. Being a part of the team here for the last 10 months, I think there are a lot of things that we've done very well as a staff, as a whole, and the school does very well. I think a few things that maybe the housing department could get better at is maybe starting to try to move from more of the paperwork being physical paper to more online applications as the world moves to so much of everything being done online. I think that could really help speed our process up and our effectiveness of it and the professionalism of it. I also think, and I know that Ricky and the team's been working on it, is the lack of supply of just water fountains, in especially Stauffer, and even here in Lakeside with just the one that works, half-half. So I think that's a huge, priority and complaint. I know I've gotten from residents and a complaint I have myself. And I also think that we could possibly do better with the mail. I know the system has been tinkered with and whatnot, but I feel like there's been some issue with the mail. I don't necessarily have the answer, but I think we should continue to look at progressing that process we have with the mail there. But ultimately, the last 10 months has been a true joy for me. This is something I take serious and I care about a lot. When I had that incident there for 2 weeks where I had to be unemployed, I lost a job because of the paperwork issues, I actually truly felt myself missing the responsibilities I have with it when I couldn't work. And for that, it cemented for me that. Ultimately, thank you, team, for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and I hope to be an RA in the future for the next up and coming academic year. Thank you, team.